Hey there everybody, nice to see you again. Thanks for coming out. It is November 1st and today is about 45-50 degrees and tonight's supposed to go down to 20. So it's the weather, it be a changing, and that's okay. What's interesting is this is a little early for that kind of weather. This is more like December weather tonight and for the next 15 days for the extended forecast. And so there's snow in the forecast. We don't really usually get snow in November. That's more of a December thing, like into a January thing. So yeah, winter is coming on strong this year and fast. Okay, so I got the X-H2s doing the business, and that little eye tracking box is just right on the old eyes with the hat, with the glasses, which the XT4 really struggled with. It's been about a week now, and here's some preliminary findings on the X-H2 and X-H2s. I have more experience so far with the X-H2s. I haven't really used the X-H2 that much. I still have the Sonys, so I can still compare them. I plan on doing a resolution test of the A7R4 versus the X-H2, but considering that I was really happy with the X-T3, X-T4 image quality at 26 megapixels, okay, really happy, yeah, it worked, okay? I always felt like there could be a little bit more. I kind of feel that the 40 megapixels on the X-H2, assuming that it's not weird and something goofy doesn't happen, which I don't think it will, the reviews I've seen say that it's just more of the same, and it's the same Fuji colors and just a little bit sharper and more pixels. So yeah, I'll take that. And really, that's all I ever really wanted. So yeah, here's just a few preliminary findings, or a few preliminary impressions of the X-H2s and X-H2. Now, I never had an X-H1, but I kind of didn't like that camera just the way it looked, and the reviews were kind of mixed, etc. I've always been an XT guy or an X Pro guy, right? They haven't made the X Pro. The original X Pro 1 was probably my favorite in the X Pro series. They haven't really made an X Pro since then that I've been too enamored with. I like the idea, and if the X Pro 4 checks the boxes, like I'm in. If not, I'm totally fine with my X-T3 and possibly X-T5, we'll see, for that kind of camera. But for the X-H2, X-H2s line, what this is Fuji's answer to the modern Canon or Sony camera. And so for me, the feeling is that this feels like this feels just like I feel with the Sony cameras in the bag. They feel more to me like cameras that I go out and do work with, like wedding cameras or portrait cameras or commercial landscape cameras. Whereas the XT series to me feels more kind of like the old Leica feeling, where it's like I'm just going to walk around with my camera and see what I find with no, and that's just that's my own personal hang up, I guess, but that's kind of how I kind of see them. Now, obviously you can do pretty much anything that the cameras are capable of doing with any camera. I get that. But, having that, the PASM dial and the grip and etc., they feel more like tools versus an aesthetic that's enjoyable to use the machine to just do pure photography with. Yeah, you kind of get what I'm trying to say. So that might not have come out so perfectly. But having said that, unlike the Sonys or the Nikons or any of the full frame cameras, the X-H2s and X-H2, everybody will say these are really big cameras. Yeah, they're bigger than the XT line, but they're smaller than the Sonys. And I can tell, I've got the same f-stop slope camera insert. I have two of them. I have the Sonys in one and the Fujis in the other, and the Fujis fit better. They're just that much smaller, even though they're the same shape of bodies, they're just a little bit smaller. And that little bit, I find, makes a big difference. So if you're worried about the size of the X-H cameras, I really like it. I was pleasantly surprised. I really thought when I ordered the X-H2s that it was going to go back right away. I really just wanted to see what it looked like. Okay, I was pleasantly surprised. The size is big enough to be usable comfortably, but it's just that much smaller that it fits in your camera bag better. Weight-wise, I think like compared to the A7 IV, it's the same weight. It might be I think there's a 2-ounce difference. I don't know what that is in metric, like 9 million grams or something. But so like the X-H2s is like 2 ounces lighter. They're close enough you can't really tell the difference in weight. However, I will say I put my full Fuji kit in one f-stop slope, and I put my full Sony kit, or I had my full Sony kit in the other f-stop slope, and the Fuji kit with all the lenses was a pound lighter. Take that for what it's worth. But I can get a lot more gear if I need to take stuff in the Fuji bag than I can in the Sony bag. The Sony lenses take up a lot of room. They're full frame lenses, and the equivalent lenses or comparable lenses are like bigger, like a lot bigger, to the point where like I put 2 bodies and the 3 zooms that I use in the Sony bag, and I got very little room for anything else. And in the Fuji bag, like I got lots of room left over. I could put a lot more stuff in there. So there goes the weight savings, right? Okay, so anybody who's worried about the size, like don't sweat that on the X-H series. Obviously the XT series is smaller. Rumor has it that the X-T5 is going to be even smaller than the X-T4, so that's cool. Okay, talking about the X-T4 versus X-H2, X-H2s, I will say that the X-T4 always felt to me, even compared to the X-T3, that the processor was struggling. The Fuji processor 4 that's in the X-T4, and it's in the X-T3 as well, when they added the IBIS into the X-T4, it's almost like it overwhelmed the processor. So I always felt like the hardware in the X-T4 just was barely keeping up. And so, yeah, with the X-H2 and X-H2s, the X processor 5, I mean, there's plenty of processing power here. I don't feel like it's struggling at all. As a matter of fact, I honestly have the impression so far that the hardware is there. I don't think the firmware is up to scratch. So video AF, I'm completely pleased with. It feels Sony-like. Like it's not zipping off to the background or anything like that. It's just on my eyes. I can see the box. It's very reassuring. And the videos that I've done so far, the X-H2s have looked great, and the focus looked great. Even in my office. So far, the X-H2s autofocus for video is great. The stills that I've done with the X-H2s, I shot an event, which is about as fast action as I get, and I think there's still some more work to be done, because the boxes were shooting all over the place, but they were picking up on everything. And it didn't actually, there was a few times where it took the picture, it took the photo and nothing was in focus, even though the box was saying that whatever it was supposed to be in focus. In fairness, it was with the original 1.0 firmware, and the camera's been out less than a month, and they've already had 2 firmware releases for it. So, you know, I've joked that Kaizen is Japanese for we haven't quite finished the software yet, but we're going to get to it. And we want to ship the camera or something like that. So, yeah, with the X-H2 and X-H2s, it feels like the hardware is there. It's fast enough. I don't think they quite have the software dialed in yet, particularly for stills, quick action, that kind of stuff. And other people have said that as well. But I think there's a strong potential for these to be like really competitive autofocusing cameras. The video, I think they got it nailed with the IAF. I mean, it seems fine. So also, I don't see any of the surging and stuff. I'm shooting this on auto exposure for the ISO, and it seems to be, it's not surging. I've got it on auto white balance. It doesn't seem to be surging. So I think they've really come a long way in solving some of the problems that the X-T4 had. I still feel that my X-T3 did better. than the X-T4. And I think it's just that the X-T4 processor was just not strong enough for all the stuff that they wanted it to do. It's just my opinion. So let's talk about the CFexpress cards. Like, I originally with the Nikon had that situation where I had a CFexpress B card and an SD card, and I got a couple of 128 gigabyte CFexpress B cards, and honestly I didn't see much of a difference. Now, I'm not a fast action shooter, etc., but I didn't even see the CFexpress cards, the fastness in terms of downloading images to my computer. Now, it may have been because when I was shooting the Nikons, I was using my PC. And now that I've kind of transitioned over to the M1 Mac, like, yeah, I prefer to use the CFexpress B cards now. It's like at least twice as fast to download files and images and stuff like that. With the 265 codec at 200 megabytes per second, like, yeah, I'm getting like 20 gigabytes for like a 10-minute. So yeah, the files are getting bigger. It is what it is, right? And the CFexpress B cards, the one place where I see it is in uploading the stuff to the computer. It's a lot faster with the M1 Mac. It wasn't faster with the PC, and that might be I had the whatever. So, but when you get it dialed in, and if you have all your connections and your computer's fast enough, CFexpress type B cards are much faster than SD cards. You can also see it with the formatting. Like the SD cards format, they take twice as long to format. So yeah, so basically really where it stands now is I'm kind of became a fan of the CFexpress type B cards. I know they're expensive. You know, what's cool is you don't need to buy a lot of them. You just, that's your main card. When that fills up, go to a big cheap SD card as your overflow. Beauty. So that's how I run it. I'm not sure what the ramifications or implications are for wedding shooters who want to have a write to both cards. Like, you're going to write as fast as the SD card will go, but you know, I could see where like sports or action or stuff like that might be slowed down by trying to write to both cards if that's what you do. Be better to have two CFexpress type B cards in that situation. But that's, you know, if you're in that situation where you need CFexpress type B cards and you're writing to both of them at the same time, like, go get a Nikon Z9, right? Okay. The Viewfinder, and I can't really tell a difference, or maybe that's what I'm seeing, I don't know. I can't really tell a difference between, 5 million dots and 3 million dots. They all look great, but I will say this. I was A-Bing the X-H2 or X-H2s, they're both the same, against, I don't know which one it was, but I was A-Bing the other night in my living room, and it was pretty dark, the X-H2 versus the X-T4. And the X-H2 viewfinder is much nicer. I mean, I could see it right away. It's bigger, it's more colorful, it feels sharper. So yeah, the magnification and the extra dots you can actually see a difference, particularly when you're A-Bing them. Not that the X-T4 or X-T3 viewfinder was bad, but the new viewfinder is way better. It's really nice. Compared to the A7 IV, yeah, it kind of rivals that. I mean, the A7 IV viewfinder is a little bit bigger, but the X-H2 viewfinder is no slouch. And when I say X-H2, I mean X-H2s, they're exactly the same. So the C1 to C7 custom functions on the PASM dial, yeah, Fuji got it right. There's nothing that I want to put in one of those custom functions that I can't put in there. You can, unlike the My menus, which you can't, like the number one thing I want to put in My menu is format, and I can't do it. Having said that, there is a shortcut to get to format. You push the trash can or the drive button, and then you push the lower D-pad button. So trash can first, press and hold, then lower D-pad button, it'll go right to format. So it's not as big a deal. But to be honest with you, there's so much stuff you can't put in the Fuji My menus, I don't bother using it. So the Fuji My menus are still, as far as I'm concerned, a work in progress. Now, if you guys use the My menu and you put stuff in there and you think it's great, let me know what you're doing, because maybe I'm not getting it, all right? But every time, it seems like every time I want to put something in the Fuji My menu, it won't let me do it. It's grayed out. Okay, fair enough. I don't miss it, to be honest with you. It's not like Sony where I use the My menu a lot, although you could put anything, pretty much anything you want in there. But the Sony menus are so all over the place that the My menu helps me a lot with Sony. Fuji, I don't really need the My Menu either, so. But the C1 to C7 custom functions, those things are awesome. I'm using it right now. And I have 4 of them dialed in for stills and 3 of them dialed in for video. That's all I need. So anything else would be an outlier, and it's actually more than I need. Anything else would be an outlier, and I would set that up manually, whatever I'm doing, it'd be something weird. So, so what you need to know about the C1 to C7 custom functions is when you're setting, you got to set them, so you've got 7 settings, but you've got 7 photo settings and 7 video settings, okay? So set the, the first thing to do is pick what you want photo and what you want video. You can set 7 photo and 7 video, but then and so you have 14 total, but then you need to pick which ones are active. And so you could have 7 photo, or you can have 7 video, or you could do what I did and have as many photo as you want, with the remaining 7 being as many video as you want. Does that make sense? So you can program 14 choices, but you can only have 7 active at a time. It's really cool. It took me a while to figure that out. Once you understand that, it took me about an hour or 2 to get them programmed in, okay? If you're new to this whole game and you're not sure what you're shooting or how to set stuff up, don't even go near the custom settings, all right? You kind of need to know what you shoot on a regular basis and what settings you want to use, or else the custom settings are you forget it. You're going to get so lost, it'll be terrible. So if you're a new user, a new digital photography person, stay away from the custom settings. When you figure out, like, when you keep doing the same thing over and over again and resetting your camera to the same stuff over and over again, that's when you want to use the custom settings. All right, I hope that helps. So, okay, compared to the X-T4, the flaps on the side that's the way it ought to be. They're much improved, and I really like them. I love the fact that the microphone in jack is above the screen, so I can see the screen without. On the X-T4, the flaps are always in the way of the screen. And that was, the X-T3 got the flaps right. It's kind of. The X-H2, X-H2s, the flaps are great. So they really figured that out. Full-size HDMI socket. I don't use it anymore because I got the flip-out screen. That's awesome. The thing I'm not sure about with the X-H2 is the flip-out screen, because the X-H2 being 40 megapixels will be my stills camera. And for stills, I prefer the 3-way screen because it doesn't get in the way of the L bracket. The flippy screen, the fully articulated flippy screens don't play nice with L brackets. So yeah, so we'll see. The X-T5 would probably be my preferred stills camera, but so, I've got the X-H2 now to check it out, so we'll see how that goes. Kind of nice having 2 cameras that you can set up exactly the same way when all the buttons are in the same place though. So I don't know which way that one's gonna go. But anyway, the flaps are a big improvement. The X-T4 flaps really felt like a step backwards. I don't know what they were thinking with that mess. Everybody said that. Okay, I beat that to death. So there's some controversy about the control dials on the X-H2, X-H2s that they no longer click in our buttons. I actually hated the buttons on the dials because whenever I wanted to move the dial, I was always pushing the damn thing in and triggering the button. I find that I much prefer not having those dials as buttons because I can just jam on them and change my settings and not worry about activating anything else. It's just me, okay? People also say they're upset that it doesn't work like their GFX. Ooh, boo-hoo. I'm making fun of the GFX people there. You know what? If you got the money to afford a GFX system and you can carry it, I don't feel sorry for you at all. Seriously. People are upset that they can't program the front dial to push in to give them immediate ISO like they can on their GFX. Okay, I don't have a GFX. I'll probably never have a GFX. Even if I could afford a GFX, I can't carry it. So I like the ISO button. You push the ISO button, you dial in your ISO, whatever you want. And honestly, I don't even use it that often because the ISO, like if I'm shooting a landscape for photography, it's ISO 125 now on the X-H2. And if I'm doing anything else, it's auto ISO. So really, it's not a big deal to me. And like I said, the non-clickable buttons, you can really, non-clickable dials, you can now just spin the dial and push in and spin it and not worry about it pushing in and triggering something. So that's an improvement for me. Okay, one more time, the video AF is Sony-like. The photo AF, I think it needs some firmware updates. It's okay, but I think it still needs a little work. So particularly for me, it's going to be great for landscapes and stuff, but for the fast action and the stuff like that, I think there's room for improvement, but I do think the hardware is there. So I think it's going to happen. I think these cameras are capable. We'll see what happens. All right, I think I covered everything. Thanks for watching. This was a bit of a long one, but these are my initial impressions and possibly things other people haven't talked about. The button on the front to control the AF mode, I don't have a problem with that. I thought it might be a problem because I really tend to use the switch on the other cameras like the X-T4, X-T3, but the button's fine. And the reason I'm okay with the button now over the switch, the reason that they said that they changed that was so that it could be assignable to a function button, to a custom setting. So I'm cool with that. I'd much rather have it assignable to a custom function than being a switch in the front that I can switch. So it's in the same place, it does the same thing. I'm fine with that. Yeah, and so there it is. Somebody also said, I'll add one last thing. Somebody also said, I might have covered this already, but somebody said that a couple of people have said that white balance wasn't assignable to the custom modes. And that's not true. At least it seems like it's assignable to me. I've got a video custom setting for in my office because of the goofy purple lights I've got, that it's always thrown off the white balance. Now maybe it doesn't throw off the white balance on the X-H2, X-H2s, I don't know, I haven't tried it. But I just automatically set up an office video setting where I think the white balance is like 3,800 or 4,000 or something. And it remembers where I'm at. So yeah, there it is. Hey, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and we'll see you out here. It's going to get cold and snowy. I'm going to do my best to try to get out and do some photography. Have a great one.